So we exist in what's called a constitutional democracy, and the powers of government operate on this kind of diagram. Okay, so basically we have the federal government, we have the provincial government, and inside the provincial government we have the municipal government. Now, according to our Constitution, the federal government has powers to make any law for the peace, order, and good government of Canada. It's a very innocuous term, big words. What does that actually mean? It simply means they can do whatever they want to make sure Canada operates as a country. There are general unspecified powers. Right? The idea is that federal government says, look, I can make a law, but laws change, things happen in society. I don't want to be restricted, right? The American system is far different, right? The federal government has very specific powers it has, and it can't go anywhere beyond that. The federal government in Canada can do whatever it wants within reason, right? They can't just kill people in the streets, but they can pass any law as long as it fulfills these situations, right? And again, those laws can't violate the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which we'll talk about later. So that is the power of the federal government. It comes from England, because in England they don't really have they just have the federal government and they have towns, right? They don't have provinces, right? That comes from the idea that the constitutional system is kind of like a monarchy. The king, the ministers, and then the people. So the federal government operates on that. The provincial government has very specific powers and they're local in nature. And the reason why they have these very specific powers is because provinces all are different. What's going on in BC right now? Do I know? Other than like smoke, because the west coast of America is burning. Right? What's in BC that doesn't exist here? Think water. What does BC have that we don't have? A coastline. So they probably have more fisheries than we have here. And of course, the line in. What do we have here that Quebec doesn't have? Or what does Quebec have that we don't have here?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What happens in Quebec more than happens here? Bonjour. Speaking French, right? So their laws are going to cover provincial more nature and different nature. Education is going to be different, right? Different provinces have different needs, right? There's going to be different things going on. So the laws have to be more local, right? Or at least you're going to want the government to be more responsive to different things within the province. So that's why it's very specified. They're general, unspecified, because it could be anything. They have to be very specific because every province has different needs, and you have to tell me what those powers are. Municipal governments exist under the pleasure of the provincial governments, right? They're really tools in order to do the day-to-day operations of people's lives. That's how our Constitution sets up, right? Now here is a very gray area. What does this mean to you when you see this thing I'm sort of circling out? You have these two different circle powers and they hit. What is that supposed to mean? What do you think that means if I have two circles that kind of intersect for a little bit? Right, or powers, right? So think for a second, healthcare, right? The federal government says that everyone should has a national healthcare plan. But the provinces administer, they run hospitals, and administer healthcare. What do we call healthcare in Canada? What's the thing you get? You show people that you can go to the hospital. What's it called? OHIP card. What does OHIP stand for? Ontario Health Insurance Plan. So what's it called in New Brunswick? What's it called in BC? I don't know either. But I'm saying it changes the name. You don't say, I don't go to BC and say, here's my OHIP card. They go, what the hell's an OHIP card? Right? It's whatever it's called in BC, right? It's whatever they call a thing. Even the LCBO is different in different provinces, yet the law says that the government has to have control over it, right? It's called something else in Nova Scotia, it's called something else in BC, but it's different from each one. Because this is an example, when they share powers, they have to figure out how they interact with each other. And sometimes they argue over who's really in charge. Is it the federal government or is it provincial government? Is it the general non-specific powers or the very specific powers? The Constitution is designed to answer all these questions, right? The Constitution is a real book, right? It says, look, here's one of the things you have to understand. Here's how the powers work. The Supreme Court steps in and says, look, in this situation, the provinces have the ability to do this. And it's a more provincial power than a federal power. Right? That's the job of a Constitution. It's really meant to be a rule book to how things happen. And constitutional law deals with this. That's one aspect of it. It also deals with the enforcement and protection of your rights from the state. Right? So when people go to talk about constitutional law and people go to the Supreme Court of Canada for a decision or any appellate court, they're looking at two things. Looking at either which government, which level of government has power over and the other part is it's a system to address conflict between people and government. That's two jobs of a Constitution. Tell me the rules so I know who's in charge. Also, when there's a problem, when the government has done something to me, they have to come to some redress, right? So if I protest, so the big thing that was going on recently was protest, right? Some provincial governments want to ban people's ability to protest on rail lines. But people say, wait a minute, I have a right to freedom of expression, to express political thought, to protest. So you go to the Supreme Court that says, well, which one is more important? Is it the government's right to establish rules and laws to protect itself? Or do people have a right to say, you're infringing upon this, you need to stop? And that's the goal of our Constitution. Straightforward? Any questions? Okay. You guys okay? I'm going to show you this part so you can take a look at it. Can you guys see the actual board? If you can, say something.
Can you balance out the camera a bit?
Hey.
Okay. There we go. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
You guys
that's
good?
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That was fast enough. I thought I would take. All right. So I would continue working on your LFAs for now. And when we get back, I'll show you the video on the different trials of combat, which is more about the heritage of law and talking about the fact that all these laws are based upon things that happened in the past. We're not going to get into the whole Justinian and Greek and whatever, but I want to show you a cool little video that sort of talks about how there are different aspects of law that seem insane, but we can still trace them to things that exist in our system. Probably not the one where you throw people into like a water and you drown them, but there are other ones that specifically show you that, hey, that is now called this form of our legal system. Okay. Helen, do you have any questions about the, now that you're on, do you have any questions about the assignment? Okay, so no, it's LFA number 1. So if you click on there, it should, just let me, click onto the class.